Well, welcome everybody to the October meeting of the League of Women Voters of Carrollton and Carroll County. We are glad you are with us. And I want to call your attention to the upcoming candidate forums. On October the 5th, which is next Monday night, will be Senate District 30. The candidates are Mike Dugan and Montinia Edwards. And the next night on Tuesday will be House District 18. The candidates are Tyler Paul Smith and Pat Rudy. And on October the 7th, House District 69, the candidates are Randy Nix and Herbert Giles. All of those will be at 7 o'clock. Gila will be sending out the information for us to get into the Zoom. And I hope you will all be listening and taking care to find out what the candidates have to offer. And now I will turn our meeting over to Jennifer.
Our program tonight is about the U.S. Census, and we all know we've gotten our forms, and lots of people send them back, and lots of people don't on that first run. So we wonder, well, how in the world do you get the rest of them for the whole country? So tonight, our speaker works with the Atlanta Regional Census Center, and he is a partnership specialist for the U.S. Census. Mr. Olushola is a graduate from Rutgers University with a degree in economics and a master's degree in education from Argosy University. He served 8 years in the U.S. Army Reserve, 718th Engineer Battalion, Fort Benning, Georgia, as an accounting and material specialist. Mr. Olushola has also volunteered as an advisor to the Scholarship Academy, an organization designed to teach low-income, first-generation students how to develop social entrepreneur projects that leverage their chances for successfully navigating the financial aid maze. Currently, Mr. Olushola is a partnership specialist with the U.S. Census, as I just said. His territory is Carroll, Pike, Paulding, and Fulton County. He is responsible for establishing partnership agreements with federal, state, and local governments and/or local businesses and community groups to develop specific strategies to eliminate enumeration barriers in specific regions in support of the decennial census. In addition, Mr. Olushola is a licensed agent for Allstate Insurance, certified in life and health, property, and casualty insurance. Mr. Olushola.
Yes, I want to thank you for inviting me this evening to be able to participate and talk about the 2020 census. It's been a long journey. I think I started with Carroll County back in November of 2019, forming the Complete Count Committee. So what I'm going to do is do a brief PowerPoint presentation just to give you an overall view about the census, and then we'll get into specifics of the summary of how we what we did in Carroll County specifically. So let me share my screen. All right, so the 2020 census, the Atlanta Regional Office, we consist of about 7 different states. You got Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, and South Carolina. That consists of the Southeast region. We're divided into 4 regions, the West Coast, Central, East, and South. Okay, the U.S. Constitution and the decennial census was started in 1790, and is required by the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, that representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among several states which may be included within this union, and according to their representative numbers. So the first census, as you can see, that was done in 1790, had 3.9 million inhabitants that was counted. Why the local governments have a vested interest in the census, and this is very important. There are two main reasons for the decennial census. One is political power. The census is constitutionally mandated for reapportionment of Congress, and census results are used for redistricting of national, state, and local governments. So it's very important for that particular reason, and also for economic impact. There's $675 billion that is distributed to the state and local governments using census data. So just about everything that you can think of that involves federal distribution of funding comes from the US Census data information. So the census data are used in many ways, forecasting future transportation needs, determining areas eligible for housing assistance and rehabilitation loans. For example, right now we have disaster fires that are going on. So FEMA, you know, most of those people are going to be displaced, and the only way that they are able to give federal assistance is to use the census data in order to, you know, not only locate the individuals that are in need, but to know what type of amounts of money that is needed for local governments. So the assistance of the local governments in the planning and implementing, one of the things is education. So Title I programs, everything from English as a second language programs, teacher development programs, some of the lunching, far as early school lunching or pre-K programs and things of that nature. Some of the health care programs that are in the hospital, transportation. So a lot of the federal highways that you see, for example, I know here, well, in Douglas County, there was a Lee Road, that a bridge that they expanded, and they also expanded Fairburn Road. Those were federal dollars that helped contributed to those expansion of those bridges. A lot of the DOT, as far as the Department of Transportation in Georgia, they use federal funded grants in order to help pave roads like 285, Highway 285 and things of that nature. So you see a lot of the funding being utilized all around you. Social services, and of course, like emergency responses that I mentioned with the FEMA. Now, the one of the most important things that individuals need to know, and a lot of people have concern, is the privacy and confidentiality. Under Title 13, the U.S. Code, all Census Bureau employees have to swear to a lifetime oath to protect respondent data. It's a felony for any Census Bureau employee to disclose confidential sensitive information or employment afterwards. So therefore, any census employee that disclose wrongful information get up to 5 years imprisonment and or a fine of $250,000 per incident. We take certain precautions in how we collect, analyze, and disseminate your information. We have strong protective measures with the IT systems to make sure it's secure. We also encrypt our information and have limited access. So other other federal agencies such as the FBI, IRS, et cetera, they do not have access to our data bank. It is important to note that the Census Bureau never asks for your Social Security number. We never ask for money or donations. We never send requests on behalf of a political party, and we never ask for your PIN codes, passwords, or any other credit card information. And we have to make that known because there's a lot of scams that are out there that would utilize census related information and try to call individuals to get some of this information. But if they ask for that, that's not a census representative asking you for that information. You do need to take the precautions and probably hang up and not answer any detailed information like that if you get a phone call. The goal of the 2020 census is to count everyone once and only once in the right place. So, you know, we have put certain precaution measures in order to make sure that we, you know, count everyone once. Some of our organizing self-response is that these are some of the primary methods in which we utilize. You can utilize the census in 3 different ways. You can use the 2020 census and do a self-response online. You can use your cell phone that has access to internet, or you could return by mail. If you received a census survey by mail, just return it. So one of 3 ways in which you could answer the 2020 census, and this is how we make it convenient and easy to do. Now, as far as Carroll County, like I said, I started the Complete Count Committee back in November, and I had the pleasure of working with your county chair, Michelle Morgan, and I also worked with the Jason, the the Southwest Regional Library Director, was also co-chair. And this is right here, the self-response rates. Over the, one is done on a daily basis, and I will take you to that website, so you know, if you haven't done it, so you can keep up with it. But these are the different cities. The city of Bremen, and this is a low response track. So in Bremen, we're doing well. We have 62.9%, which anything that's over maybe 61% or close to the, as you see at the bottom, the national average is a good response. Villarica, which one of the cities that we, you know, had the most issues with trying to get everyone to respond, we finally got them up to, as of yesterday, I took these self-response rate just of yesterday, it was 60.4. And that was great because mostly they were down in low 50s. So we did, you know, do some improvement. Carrollton is 62.9, Temple 68.3, Mount Zion 62.9, Bowdoin 65.8, Roopville is 63.2, and Whitesburg 62.8. Now, the way you look at that, you look at the national average. That means across the country with self-response rates. That means individuals that are actually going to the my 2020 census.gov website and filling out the census survey. Is the national average is 66.3. Georgia, as you might have heard, is 47. Ranked as far as of the states around the country, and our participation rate is 61.9. So you can see Carroll County is doing above the whole state of Georgia. So you're still in a good spot, and you're only maybe 2 percentage points below the national average. Fortunately, you will have, you know, I know many of you heard let me go back. Okay, before I get to that. Carroll County response team. So these are some of the things that we have been doing to make sure that the census self-response rates increased in the Carroll County area. The Ingalls supermarket in Billerica in Carrollton, we have our census response team. Those are individuals that have iPads and that are trained to record, help or assist individuals that might need assistance in filling out the census form. So we have them located at the Billerica, Carrollton, Ingalls supermarket from September 5th to the 26th. Each Saturday, we had a team go out to those particular locations. The Carroll County MVD office every Tuesday and Thursday, September 1st through the 29th. Bowdoin High School football game, we were there and we got a great response on September 18th. The sidewalk chalk by the Nava Lemison Memorial Library on September 19th. So those were some of the things that we were doing, especially in the month of September, as we close out, to make sure that we get those self-response numbers as high as possible. In addition to that, we do have what we call census takers that are going door to door to the non-response individuals and trying to get them to participate. All right. So as you know, you might have heard that the census end date, for I would say the partnership specialists like myself is September 30th is the end date. However, you might have heard on the news that there was a federal judge in California that gave an extension to October 31st. So what that might do is the census takers who are still going out there counting individuals probably will extend to October 31st, and the website will probably be up, for additional 30 days, so individuals can still continue to get their numbers up as far as the participation rate. The original schedule is for the president to receive the census data by December 31st. I think that because of the new order might change, and it might be 2021 instead. And then that will push back the redistricting that's counts that are delivered to the states. Normally it would be March 2021. It might be delayed another 2 months in order to make sure those counts are right. So that is pretty much the bulk of my presentation. I did want to, if for anybody that would like to see how to do the self-response rates, I can show you on that particular website. I'm not sure about the time. Would you would like me to do that or not? Okay, so what I did, I went to the website census.gov, and then when I got into census.gov, and you can do this on your computer. That's why I went to this particular website. This is open for any and everyone. Census.gov, and then you put in the hourglass or the search, the 2020 self-response rates or self-response map, and that's what this is right here. And on this, you can see what the national response rate, those numbers that I received. You go to the selected state, and I selected Georgia. Okay, there you go. All right, so it'll tell you what the self-response rate is as of now. I think this website is updated every 2 days. So the self-response rate in the Georgia is 62.1%, and the national average is 66.4%. So now if we want to get dig deeper, we want to find the county. You click on county. Okay, and you select the county you want. We're going to select Carroll County. Okay, and it says Carroll County right now is at 64.4% self-response rate. And it's actually above the whole state of Georgia. So if you go to the bottom, it'll break it down. It'll give you the total number, that's 64.4. 51% of that is internet response, and the other percentage is through telephone. So we have a 1-800 number that people can call. Like I said, you can either call our 1-800 number. We have it in various languages, up to 12 different languages. On our Act Now sheet, I did send out. It has the various numbers in different languages that they can call. It takes about 10 minutes for an individual to fill out the census survey. And we don't ask for any personal information, your financial or anything of that. It's basically just demographic type information, race, how many people are in the house, that kind of thing, age, and very simple. Most people can fill it out in less than 10 minutes. So but it has a huge impact, and we try to emphasize that, because once the census closed down, that information is retained and going to be utilized by all government entities and local businesses, Walmart or something like that. If they're trying to build a store in the area, they're going to look at the demographics before they move a multi-million-dollar business in the area. Local restaurants, they look for income, that kind of information. The Chamber of Commerce use our information, so just about every entity, we're sort of like the research or data organization for all the federal organizations. That concludes my presentation. I do thank you for your time and consideration, and I'll stick around if anybody have any further questions.
There was a question from Robin, and did the first census include Native Americans?
That's a good question.
Actually, and then I Googled the answer and put it in there.
Oh, yes. Please read it, Robin.
Okay. What's your answer, Robin?
Okay, so in 1890, the census was the first one to count Native Americans. So in 1790 when it first started?
Yes.
There were 3.9 million inhabitants. No telling, that could have been double that for, especially in 1790, of Indians, of American Indians, Native Americans. But in 1930, they featured an additional form that was called Indian population. And then in 1970, they asked for tribal affiliation.
Okay. Yeah. So you can see the census is a growing process, even with the slaves. That the 1790 wasn't counted. I think that not until after maybe the 1800s were the slaves were included in that population.
And Barbara has a question.
Yes.
Barbara, can you unmute yourself? There we go. Okay, I gotcha.
Actually, I don't have a question.
Oh, your hand was raised. Okay,
Sorry.
Okay.
Anybody else?
But let me ask something. How many people get contacted because they are supposed to be in a particular demographic group? I have been contacted for about once a month all along during the census. And I don't know whether it's my age and they're trying to figure out how the old folks are getting along, or if it had something to do with just the geographical area that I lived in.
Well, what we do is we have to make sure the data is right. So even though we might go out and count once, there might be a survey person that might call to try to certify that information, because once we conclude whatever that information is, that lasts for 10 years. So they want to make sure. So even after the census takers finish the initial, getting the gathering the information, we have another post census group that goes out there and spot check to make sure those numbers are accurate.
I have a question. How the Hispanic community has responded?
Well, we have during the partnership specialists, we had a special team of Hispanic individuals that went out to various, Hispanic events and community leaders and churches. And, so far, from my perspective, relating to the Hispanic population, there's been some hesitation as far as filling out the census form. I know there's a lot of political uncertainty about the confidentiality of the information. And, so that has slowed down the, Hispanic response. But we still continue to go through the trusted voices in the Hispanic community to try to get as many of them to participate as possible, because we count everyone, whether you're a citizen or not. Everyone in the United States has to be counted, because those resources go toward communities at not only homeless populations, but immigrant populations that need resources. That's how all this grant money come down to the local government. So they have to be counted. If they don't get counted, then next year, 2021, if they need any type of health care services and things of that nature, there'll be less money to distribute to those particular groups.
Thank you. And Ms. Sonia Barnes has a question.
I do have a question. Thank you. You kind of touched on the answer to the question I was going to ask. Let's just say once the funds are distributed between the states, and you have one particular state, let's just say Georgia. Georgia had a very good response one year, and then the next year did not have a good response at all. What happens to the state or the counties within the state as far as how they distribute the funds, and do we have certain things to go lacking? How does that really work? Or do they compensate the state in some kind of way? If you can elaborate on that a little.
Okay, so we try to emphasize the all throughout the year, we try to emphasize how important this process is. It only happens every 10 years. Now we do the American survey every 5 years. We have other surveys that for the Chamber of Commerce and things of that nature. The census is always working, but the decennial census that count everyone is only every 10 years. Unfortunately, what could happen, and what has happened in the past, states that have been undercounted, or the participation rate wasn't that high, they can possibly lose a representative, if the numbers are not there, and they can lose funding. So that's why state and local government officials are trying to make sure that the numbers account. For example, like if they're applying for a federal grant or economic empowerment grant or something of that nature, they have to have a certain population in order to qualify for that particular grant. And if they don't meet the threshold, they won't be able to get that grant. The same thing with the school systems. There are certain Title I programs and grants that are submitted based on student population. And if the population is not counted properly, or some individuals that didn't participate, then those fundings can be lost, and then it'll be reassigned to the areas that show an increase.
Someone gave an example recently to me. So let's say in your census, you say that you have 15,000 students who need early lunch, breakfast. But that's what you turn in on the census, but you actually have physically 20,000 kids that come and need breakfast every morning. So your state has to make up, that money's lost,
Yes, it is.
You know,
So
your state either has to make up or turn those children away.
So to make it even more of a point, they said for each person that is not counted, that could be at least $2,300 worth of funding. And then you multiply that time 10 years, that can be up to $20 million.
Wow.
All right, according to your charts, about 2% of people have been counted as of this point. So what happens to the other 38%? And so how do you count for them or what? How does that go?
So that's self-response. These are people, the 62% of the people who volunteer to provide their information voluntarily. So they went online, they either made a phone call, went online, or they mailed back their census. Now we have the non-response individuals, the individuals that have, at this point, we started April 1st, and months later, after receiving maybe 4 or 5 reminders or letters and phone calls and things of that nature, we still have a census response team going out there maybe 2 or 3 times to try to get that information from them. So what actually happens, the census taker might go out there 2 or 3 times or so. Then they might ask a neighbor that might be familiar with the households and things of that nature, and they might get a summary that way. But other than that, they would have to estimate, and that's the problem. If you have to estimate, you're not going to be as accurate. So it behooves for the trusted voices in the community to show how important it is, because if they're receiving resources, whether a nonprofit organization, et cetera, there's all type of federal money that's out there, and the importance of it. People don't realize it until when they need it. So next year in 2021, when they're trying to, if the winner is like the United Way, when they get funding for Georgia Power or something that nature, provide heat and energy, and they only have so much allocated for funding that's coming from various resources. So the roads, just the schools, just about everything you can name, there is some type of federal funding that is implemented, and so it affects our life, all throughout every aspect of our life. And we need to, make sure over the next 30 days that what's the time remaining to encourage individuals, through social media, encourage them with a challenge or something of that nature that, I filled out the census, encourage 10 more people to do it. And that way we can make sure our numbers are high. It's not too late. So we have some additional time, and we need to make sure that our trusted leaders in the community get the word out to those who haven't filled it out yet.
So I'm assuming that the census workers are not allowed to question students in schools.
No.
No.
No, so you have to be 18. You can't be. So it'd be your parent. If you're a college student, it's wherever you lived on April 1st. So that's what this state. If you're in another state, maybe 8 months of the time, and only here in Georgia 2 months, you have to be counted in that state. And it goes off also for military individuals, wherever they're stationed. The majority of the time, that's where they'll be counted. We have group quarters that counts homeless individuals. They go to soup kitchens and places where homeless individuals gather. We have special group quarters that count hospitals, that count prisons and things of that nature. So all these institutions receive some type of federal funding to supplement whatever they're doing. Remember, we still got time now. So like I said, we can take from this particular meeting and hopefully, expand upon, the importance and the need to make sure that we count, because this won't happen to the next time this occurs in 2030. That's another 10 years. So we have to make sure that everyone who hasn't filled it out yet completes that census, and let them know it only takes 10 minutes. It's simple, easy, and it's safe.
I do have a question. I'm just reading this little article. What are the racial and ethnicity categories? Do you know?
Oh, you're talking about on the
On
census?
the census, yeah, I remember seeing them.
So each census, they try to improve the ways they deliver the census. So for example, this year is the 2020 census is the first time they did it online.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, it just used to be a long form that you had to fill out, and it take, you know, they shorten it at the same time to get more specific data. They have racial groups, you know, broken down. So you don't necessarily have to just claim a generic race. You can be more specific in saying that you're, you know, European, Indian, or Polynesian, or whatever ethnic group that you want to claim. You can be split. So that way they can get more accurate numbers and more data to, you know, what the actual population is. And that's something they didn't do in the past. So this is something new that they just added to the census form.
I was very impressed on seeing, because I was filling out the census for many people, and I was always able to find the country of origin, and it was perfect.
Yes. Yeah, so that's something new, which they didn't do in 2010. So, and you know, so what they do after they make an assessment, they see what went right and what didn't go right, and then they try to improve the process. You know, so for the next census, you know, there'll probably be more technology driven. You know, even though this one was somewhat technology driven, even I think 2030 will be even more technology driven, and it'll probably be more accurate as far as data is concerned. You know. And hopefully we'll get an earlier start. I think we started with this census back in 2018. You know, we had started, gathering our organization for its partnership specialists and things of that nature. And then in 2019, that's when we added the majority of the team.
And do you think that you'll be extended to October the 30th?
No. So the partnership specialist that actually, you know, is the liaison between the community and the census, you know, as far as giving you resources and connections and things of that nature and organizing the groups. Our role has ended, but the census takers, the ones that are out in the field actually doing the door knocking, they will, you know, continue.
One thing that I wanted to ask, if someone decides to do their census online right now, would it be immediately counted, and so the census takers will not go to their door?
There's two things that, there's one thing that can make sure that the census is counted immediately. That means if you have your household code, so each house on the census form has a code. That's how they identify, you know, who you are as far as, you know, being at a particular location. So if you have that code, it's automatically registered in the computer. But if you don't have a code, so you don't necessarily have to have a code in order to fill out the census. It takes a couple of weeks. So now a data person has to look up your house and match it to a code. So that might take an extra week or two. So it won't be done immediately, that counted. So a census taker might, you know, still come to your house if you didn't have a household code. And then remember, we're doing spot checking to make sure. So even after this operation, as far as the census takers job, there will be another crew that will be out there spot checking, making sure that, you know, whatever information the census taker put down there, that's correct. You know, so we have to make sure, because this, you know, counties and local governments are depending on accurate information. So they'll be out there for another 8 weeks doing the spot checking.
Thank you.
You know, I had heard about the population census areas, that the state is divided up. You know, first we're divided up into counties, and we're divided up into districts and school zones and things like that. But there's an actual census areas.
Yes.
And on that website, I just, do you know how I could find more information about those census areas?
Yeah, so when you
Yeah.
do I need to pull the screen up again?
Well, I got my screen up, so let's
Okay,
see.
so basically, what you do is once you get to the state, you go down from the state to the county, and once you pull up the county, you pull up the you go down and click on city. Okay. And then this once you go to the city, you can get the tracking. You know, that'll be the next step. So once you go to the tracking, you can get these specific areas. Now we also have a system called Roam that you
Okay,
can
say that
also.
again.
We have a system called Roam, ROAM.
Oh,
You can
okay.
Roam. You can pull that up on your phone too, or on your computer. Roam is a way that you can find the various census tracts and things of that nature, low response areas and communities. It'll give you a tracking number, and then it'll give you the demographics of that particular area. It'll tell you how many Hispanics, what's the percentage of Hispanics, white, black, whether they below poverty or above poverty level, the education level, give you the whole demographical breakdown.
The reason I asked that is because, we follow library information, and in library funding in Carroll County, there was a big argument because one particular town of Whitesburg is very, very small and has a small population. So if they were giving library funding to just that small town, then it wasn't very much. There's only 200 people there. So what the new library head did was he took the census areas, each census area that touched each town, and added that to the population. And it evened out and made the library funding a little more equitable for the people who actually used the library. So I thought that was ingenious by him to think of a different way besides city, block, to include and the funding. So anyway.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Your library system has, partner with the U.S. Census. A lot of the computers were donated by the U.S. Census, so people can go to the library. Before the pandemic, the plan was to donate so many computers to the library, so individuals who didn't have access to internet or computers can go to the public library and use the dedicated computers that automatically took them to the census website, whether for a census job or census to fill out the census survey form.
Did you work with Jeremy Snell?
Yeah, Jerry Smell was one of the complete
great.
count committee chair.
Yeah, he's great. He's terrific. He's our new West Georgia Regional Library director.
Okay, yes, and he did an excellent job in getting us started in Carroll County and organizing all the government institutions on getting involved in the census early back in November.
How important is the count? How does the count affect, or the lack of count affect, the political divisions that the state legislature will be doing when they redistrict next year based on the new census?
Okay, I can hear you a little. So I think you're talking about the redistricting with local governments. Yeah, so that will, when the census finally gets its information, maybe by summer of 2021, it'll be trickled down it'll go to the state first, and then the state will give it to the local counties, and the counties will distribute it to the local government. So the importance is when the state does its redistricting, it's based on population. And if the population goes down in a certain community, then that affects the number of representation that you might have in that particular community. If it goes up, that might can increase your representation. So it's when the state does the redistricting, those numbers will affect whether you get additional representation or less.
There's one particular state, I think it's Montana, that's really, really working hard to get their census done completely because they think they might be able to have I can't remember if it's Montana, but because they really, really want to be able to increase their representation in Washington.
Oh yes, so that's in political empowerment. So the census not only gives funding, but it's a sense of political empowerment. And the more people that are counted, the better representation you get.
If there are no other questions, I guess this will conclude our program. We thank you so much, Mr. Olushola, for being with us. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olushola.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. Well, y'all have a blessed and wonderful evening. And remember, the work is not done yet. So just get out there and get as many people registered for the census survey as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.